So thank you very much for coming, everybody, today. So my name is Hope Zegelink. I'm one of the wellness specialists with Live Well Vermont, and today we are talking about resilience in the face of stressful times. So resilience is about bouncing back after a stressful event or some sort of setback. And so we are, of course, talking about how to manage our stress during all of the aftermath of the flooding that happened recently. So we're actually going to start off with a fun little chart talking about emotional fluctuations in times of mass disaster. This is a chart put out by Stanford University in this report they released. This is talking specifically about healthcare workers during COVID, but it is so spooky how much this resonates with what we're going through right now. So take a look at this and see kind of where you think you or your community are. Of course, you might not go through all of these stages in the same order, or you might not go through all of them at all. But this is really kind of mostly talking about the collective emotions, so emotions of a group or a community. So as you're looking at this, I'm curious if you want to drop in the chat where you feel that your community is in this process right now, whether that's your home community or your work community or your family. Where do you feel like things are today? So after the initial event, we have this honeymoon period where everybody comes together and there's a great sense of pitching in and supporting each other and community collection. Do you still feel like we're there, or have we maybe moved past that a little bit? I know that it's been raining a little bit since then, and so maybe that's leading to some trigger events where emotions go back low again. So yeah, it looks like people are kind of agreeing with me. Maybe we're like at the honeymoon or the end, or maybe we're moving past a little bit into the disillusionment and trigger events. Yeah. So kind of all in the same little slice of it, perhaps. But I do agree. I think that the honeymoon phase was pretty clear when it first started, and then the ending of it is not so clear. All right, moving right along. So to talk about stress, we are going to talk a little bit about our stress response. So you've probably heard before of the fight or flight response when you are in some sort of situation that requires you to be fully on. So maybe you're taking out the trash and you see a bear in the backyard. Yeah. So you can feel your heart beating, you can feel your butterflies in your stomach, you might start to breathe a little faster. So that's your sympathetic nervous system waking up. And that's getting you ready to take on what is coming at you. That can be really helpful for some things like seeing the bear in your backyard or maybe giving a presentation at work. It can kind of help you get that oomph that you need. But if you stay in that fight or flight for too long, that's what leads to some of the chronic health problems that you see from long-term stress. So the other side of that is the rest and digest. That is when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, and that is when we are in a more state of calm, where our body functions can all be carried out, and we can kind of reset from that acute stress. So the reason we're talking about this right now is because a lot of the stress management techniques that we're going to be practicing together today are designed to help us get out of the fight or flight mode when we don't need it and into the rest and digest mode. So fight or flight, helpful in short chunks, not helpful if it sustains over time. So we're going to be talking about how to reset and relax a little bit. We're going to frame our strategies into a before, during, and after framework so that we can have some self-care habits and practices in place for any period in a stressful time. And that's kind of what is this, that's what's bringing you resilience, is having a plan, having strategies during it, and then afterwards recharging, refreshing, and bouncing back. So as we go through this presentation, think a little bit about which of these strategies really work for you, which of them help you feel really good. Take what you like, and if something doesn't serve you, there's no sense carving out any time to do it. All right, so first of all, we're going to start with some of these before habits, and these are really the habits that you want to work on to establish before things get crazy, to really build up your resiliency and make you ready to handle what life can throw at you. And I will say it can be really hard to identify when you are in the before stage because sometimes it feels like we're just constantly in a stage of during. So also just tuning in and saying when things are good, things are pretty good right now, and starting to lay that foundation to prepare you. So as we start thinking about these before things, go ahead and drop in the chat. What do you already like to do when you know you have a stressful day coming up? What are some of the things that you prepare to get yourself ready to handle a stressful day? You can also unmute. You can type in the chat or unmute, whatever you like. Wonderful. Meditating in the morning, taking a walk, journaling ideas. Great. Getting enough sleep. Oh, so important. Diffusing essential oils. Wonderful. Really nice. Building in extra breaks. That's perfect. Writing down your priorities. That's wonderful. All these are great. I like to make sure that I've gone to the grocery store recently to make sure that I have lots of nice, good, healthy food around so that I can stay fueled during the crazy day too. All right, great suggestions. So some other ones that we think about are nutrition, exercise, social connections, sleep, and hobbies. So for nutrition, of course, it's important while we eat, but it's also important when we eat. So having a plan to make sure that that you have access to regularly spaced meals and snacks so that you're not going too long without eating. Having some sort of exercise routine already established can make it so much easier to get out of the door for that real stress busting walk if you're used to taking that all the time. Social connections, I think, are really important to point out because when we're really busy and things have to get cut from our routine, often time with friends and family is the first thing to get cut. So this is a reminder to prioritize those social connections, invest in those relationships so that people are around to support you when you really need the support. The sleep is really important. Somebody said that. Yes, thank you, Sarah. And then having some hobbies or some things that you know are going to de-stress you and make you feel joy in the moment. Just having those things ready and ready to go. We're not going to spend too terribly long on the before section today because we are in the during. We're here now. So we're going to talk about a couple of strategies that can give us some ideas, and we'll practice some of them together. So the first one is doing some sort of mindfulness activities. These can be tiny little mindfulness snacks that you can work into your day. So meditating in the morning is wonderful. If you have that practice, you are more easily able to drop into that quiet state in your mind. But even doing tiny little chunks of mindfulness can be really helpful to bring you into the present moment and crowd out worries about the future and the past. So we're going to start with a little centering activity. And as we are doing this as a group, it'll be a little bit different. So when you do this by yourself, you might want to treat it as a meditation and find a nice comfortable place to sit or rest, maybe doing some breathing and closing your eyes. But as a group, we're just going to kind of call out in the chat some things you can see. So let's start us out. Who can identify some things that you can see to tune you into the present moment? What's around you? Try to focus on things that are either positive or neutral. A painting, perfect. That's so relaxing. What can I see? Glass of water. That's also very grounding. Wonderful. A beautiful tree. Oh, a photo. That's lovely. Wonderful. All right, let's move on to things that we can hear. I just heard my cat grunt behind me. A dog snoring, people chattering. Yep, kind of tuning into the background noise that you often just tune out. 3 things that you can feel, so any number of things that you can feel. I can feel the room I'm sitting in is extremely warm. What else do people feel? Maybe the clothes on your back, maybe your feet on the ground, a wrist rest, cat brushing my leg. Oh, all wonderful, very grounding feelings. 2 things you can smell. Hopefully these are positive or neutral, but never know for sure. The rain. And then the last one, something that you can taste, I think is really interesting to do when you're not eating or drinking anything, because trying to sit still and tasting what you taste in your mouth when there's no taste at all is a very good centering activity. But it's also really nice to do this activity around a cup of coffee or tea or something like that. All right, so that's a good way to center. Onions from lunch 3 hours ago. Positive or neutral? I don't know. But yes, that is exactly that is an exact example of something that you can taste when you're not listening at all. It's tuning in, it's feeling the present moment, and that's what we're here for. Okay, so next we're going to talk about some of the other things on this list, I guess we should mention. So doing some sort of body scan or progressive muscle relaxation can be a really other great way of mindfulness, just feeling your body in space. So with these, we usually start from our feet, and you can either just think about them or you can tighten up and relax your feet, your legs, your waist, your abdomen, your arms, your shoulders, your face, kind of scanning all the way up through your body and relaxing each of those body parts can be another way of tuning in. But I want to move on to my favorite ones, which are the breathing exercises. And I like these breathing exercises because they are the best way to communicate to our nervous system that we are safe. So while you are in that fight or flight phase and you can feel your heart racing and your breath quickening, the only thing you have control of in those moments is your breath. And if you can slow down your breathing and focus on it, that can signal to your body that you are safe and you do not need that acute stress response in that moment. So we're going to practice some diaphragmatic breathing before we do our other breathing exercises to practice sending that breath really deep down into our bellies. So get a comfortable seat and let's place one hand on our chest and one hand on our belly. You won't be able to see mine. But as we're breathing, you're going to feel your chest hand not move very much, and your belly hand is going to move a lot as you're breathing. So as you breathe in, you will feel your belly expand and your hand will rise. And then as you exhale, you'll pull your navel back into your spine and contract your belly and feel your hand lower. So let's take a couple of these through our nose and feeling that belly expand, blow up your belly like a balloon. And then as you exhale, pull your belly back in. Keep your shoulders nice and down. Let's do 2 more. You breathe in through your nose, and then you can breathe out through your nose or your mouth, whichever one feels better. So that diaphragmatic breathing is a way to activate your vagus nerve, which is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's really communicating with your body from your brain, which is pretty cool. All right, how do we feel after practicing some of those diaphragmatic breaths? Changes? Calmer, nice. More relaxed, wonderful. So with that strategy, you can apply this to any of these counting formats. So with box breathing, this one you see a lot because this is what's used by the Navy SEALs. So they actually use this as they're charging into battles. So this is designed for calming the nervous system in very stressful environments. But this one is nice to add a little bit of a tactile sensation by tracing a box somewhere on your body. So that can be on the palm of your hand like this. You can trace it on the top of your thigh. And any of these breathing exercises are nice because you can do them without anybody knowing what you're doing. You can do them in a meeting and kind of secretly calm yourself down without anybody knowing. So let's do a couple rounds of box breathing, and you can try something that feels nice to you. And as we're going through these, you can practice breathing deep into your diaphragm with the ones that we just did before. So I'll count us off for 1, and then I'll have you do another one at your own pace. So first, let's start by exhaling all of our air out. And then we will inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Take a couple more rounds on your own time in your own body. All right, and once you've completed a couple of rounds, return to breathing normally. So how did we like the box breathing where you're holding your breath for part of it? What were our thoughts there? Do you like it more or less? Another option, if you don't like the holding in the middle, if you're really nervous, you won't be able to hold your breath. Yeah. So holding your breath might make you calm down. It also might make you more nervous. So this is another one you can try, the 5-finger breathing, which doesn't really have any holding. And it's nice because this has the tactile sensation built in. So you breathe in as you trace up your thumb. You breathe out as you trace down. You match the depth of your breath to the length of each finger, so that when you get to that middle finger, it's the biggest breath of the whole exercise. And the next 2 breaths are a little bit smaller. You can go at your own pace. And then when you get to that last little pinky breath, when you exhale, you trace all the way down the outside of your wrist and you let out all of your air. So that's another option. And this one also works really well with kids. So if you have any nervous kiddos around or anxious or grumpy kids, that's another good one that you can use with them. Has anybody seen these before? Or have any other ones that you like to share? The secret of breathing exercises is not the number that you're counting to or anything, but it's really just the calming down and the focusing on the breath. So it's mostly thinking about your breath, doesn't matter what you're counting to, just the act of thinking can be very grounding. All right, so now let's move on to some more in the moment techniques. Movement breaks are also giantly important for how to calm yourself down during the day. So we probably all know that standing up, doing a little wiggle, and maybe going outside is a great way to kind of clear your mind and your body and your energy. But sometimes we just need a reminder that it's helpful and that it's okay to take those movement breaks. So I just dropped into the chat this Desk Fit booklet. This is a guide to some exercise breaks that you can do at your desk. It's put out by NASA. So they're, obviously highly studied. And these are nice ones that you can work in throughout your day. For movement breaks if you can't really get away. But yeah, just giving yourself permission and reminding yourself that those are really important to take might be the lesson that you take from today. On the topic of movement, making sure that your ergonomic setup is top-notch can also be a great way to care for your body during times of stress. So if you work from home and you find yourself having couch afternoons, this is your reminder to check in with your ergonomic setup. All right. The next in the moment techniques we're going to talk about are some reframing techniques. So when we talk about reframing, it can be really easy to slide into this sort of toxic positivity mindset where we just want to say, well, maybe something is going bad today, but at least you have a house or something like that. So we don't want to like get this into a toxic positivity mindset. But I think it is important to acknowledge that we as humans do have a little bit of a negativity bias. So our brains devote more brain tissue to thinking about bad things and searching out for risks than they do to appreciating the things that we have. And evolutionarily, that was probably a benefit for us, but in today's world, it doesn't really serve us anymore. Thankfully, we can retrain our brains to be on the lookout for good things. And so the more you practice looking for the good things, the easier and more natural it becomes. So starting yourself out with a couple of prompts to practice maybe in the moment or maybe on a regular routine to just kind of, tune your radio frequency to the things that are good in your life. So you might try listing to yourself, either maybe in your head or writing them down, 5 things that went right today, or maybe if it was a very tough day, maybe just 3 things that went right, 10 things I like about my life, or 3 things I'm grateful for. So let's all drop in the chat one thing that went right today. Hopefully we'll get more than 5. Today's not over. You can also do something that went right yesterday. I'll allow that. Good meeting with the team. Wonderful. Made it on time. That's huge. Went out for a walk. Fantastic. Today I hugged my cat. That was nice. Remembered to eat lunch. Fantastic. I love it. Wonderful. Good job, everybody. So keeping these like scan for the positives in can be very helpful. However, it is important to acknowledge our feelings when we are feeling terrible. And it's okay to feel your feelings when things are going badly. And in stressful times, one thing that can happen is anxiety or lots of worrying. And so if you can kind of separate your worry time from the rest of your life, that can help keep the worry time from taking over everything else that you're doing. And so a couple ways you can do that are designating one physical space that you go to worry to kind of separate that from the rest of your life. And then setting some sort of timer so that you can put an end time onto your worry time. And then sitting there, feeling your feelings, experiencing what's actually happening for you. But then when that timer goes off, moving away and leaving that behind. So finding another activity to do after that to reset. This sort of thing gives you the opportunity to really honor what's going on for you and give it space in your life without letting it take over. Has anybody ever tried any sort of worry timer or anything like that before? This can really help for things like rumination as well. You kind of tend to stew about your day. Hasn't tried the worry break. The important thing with the worry break, just so we can reiterate, is to do something else afterwards. All right, very good. So the next thing we're going to talk about is fitting it in, because when we're stressed, there is a lot of things that are commanding our attention that really we might prioritize to get through the stressful time. So as state employees, most of us are pretty loyal to our Outlook calendar. So if you know that you're going to honor the engagements that you have on your calendar, go ahead and schedule your lunch break or some sort of 5-minute breaks a couple times of the day. I think the recommendation is to get up at least once every 2 hours and wiggle at least to make sure you can get those fit in. Habit stacking is really helpful to remember to do things. So that is tying a habit you want to have to an existing habit. So that might be something like every time you get up to go to the bathroom, you will do 10 jumping jacks or something like that. The next one, give yourself permission. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, just know that you have the power to care for yourself and that you have permission to take breaks, and you need to maybe give yourself the same permission to take care of yourself. And you can do that by remembering that stepping away is going to make you focus better when you return. Okay. And I did mention this a little bit at the beginning, that the prioritizing the things that give you the best return on investment. So even if something is a tiny little break but gives you a huge boost, like if you simply walk outside the door and stand outside and look at the sky for 3 minutes or even 30 seconds, if that gives you a better ROI than going to the gym for an hour, prioritize the thing that's going to give you a better boost of happiness. Okay, so this next strategy is called the 4Ds, and this is a way to deal with overwhelm. And I think this one is really helpful when we're feeling stressed because we have so many responsibilities or things that are being demanded of us, to sort them into these 4 categories. So what can be really helpful for this is to mix up all your personal and professional obligations into one place, because they're all floating around together in your brain. Put them all down on paper or maybe in a Word document all in the same place, and then start to sort them out by the things that you really do actually need to do right now, the things that have deadlines, the things that you can delay that you have to do eventually, but you don't have to do them right now, the things you can delegate. So even though we feel like we should do them ourselves, maybe we actually can ask our neighbor to pick up our kids after school. And then finally, the best category is delete, the things you feel like you probably should do, but you really don't have to do. Maybe that is folding the laundry. Maybe in certain times, the laundry just gets worn out of the clean laundry basket. Okay. Another strategy is prioritizing your commute as a time for self-care. So a transition time to get you in the mood to work and then to get you out of the mood and leave the work things behind. I don't know how many people are working in the office versus working at home, but if you do have a commute, fill it with things that fill you, like an uplifting playlist or a positive audiobook. If turning on the news on the radio doesn't make you feel good, don't turn it on. If you like to talk on the phone, choose people that are going to uplift you to talk to you on the phone. Don't call grumpy people. And then if you don't have a commute, can you carve out any transition time on either end of your day to do any transitional activities? So maybe that's a walk or a meditation or a stretch or just stepping outside for a couple minutes. Okay, so now in the last 3 minutes, getting to the after section of how to refresh and recharge. I want to empower everybody to be their own advocate and to step up when you need support, to ask for help when you need it, and to know that it really benefits other people to help you as well. People like to help other people, and if you allow somebody to do something nice for you, you will also be making the other person very happy. Leaning on those social connections. So as much as you can prioritize time with friends, I know they said that at the top, those connections are really important. And finding some ways to laugh can be a wonderful stress buster. If you have any sort of Teams channel going on with your work team, using that and using the connections with people who really get what you're going through at work, sending some funny cartoons or GIFs throughout the day to just kind of let everybody get a little bit of a break and a laugh. Finding the things that really recharge you when you are relaxing. So even though it might feel relaxing to lay on the couch and scroll through Instagram, investigate if that actually does recharge you, if it does make you feel uplifted and restored. And I love this stock photo here. It's sitting next to a window with a dog and a book and a tea. It's like the perfect little vignette. So if somebody took a picture of you in the ultimate relaxation, what would be the 3 or 4 elements in a picture that would charge you? If you want to drop a couple of those in the chat, you can feel welcome to. I think mine actually might look an awful lot like that picture. And then finally, the last piece is creating a culture of self-care. So modeling the self-care that you hope to see in your personal life and in your professional life. I think the best example of this is taking a lunch break. So if you work in an office or even, the little green dot on the Teams, if it's lunchtime and everybody else is working away, it's really hard to be the person to stand up and say, it's time for lunch. I'm going to stop working and go take my lunch break. But if you stand up and say that, it empowers everybody else around you to also stand up and go take their lunch break. So you're not only practicing self-care for yourself, but you are empowering those around you to also take some time for themselves. So that really wraps up our cycle of before and after. Sometimes it can feel like they overlap a little bit, but do the best that you can to practice those habits and routines that will serve you during stressful times so that they are available when you need them. And thank you for coming.